Color me with perception, separation, fear, and judgment. How cold your reception. You look at me but do not see, no connection of the I in you and me. The holy I in me longs to see and connect with the holy I in you, for we are one, equally warmed by the light of the sun. You look at me but do not see, for consciousness only allows one to see that degree of light that one has chosen to be. Yet still, there's recognition of an inner light, ever present though undetected by physical sight. This inner light is the flame which draws the moth, the idea that becomes the seed, the blueprint of who we be, the holy I that is in you, that is in me. So when I look at you, it isn't the vessel of you that I see, for bodies only manifest form from thought, thought from idea, idea from principle, principle from the one. Therefore, see me not as that which your eyes perceive, for I can tell you that yes, they do deceive. Instead, shine your inner light in all directions and let it illuminate your perception. And as you open to the holy I in you, you will begin to see the holy I in me and realize that we are really one, descended from the one and equally warmed by the light of the sun. Good morning, Inner Light. I'm Cassandra Davies. The theme this month is community, and my topic today is consciousness defines community. How does consciousness define our ideas about community? I'm going to be using poetry and the Socratic method to investigate this question and this idea. The Socratic method is a form of cooperative, argumentative discussion. It's designed to stimulate critical thinking and also to expose presuppositions. Right now, we're witnessing an incredible time of uncertainty, upheaval, and discord. And there's just this jumble of emotion and the idea of separation. We're seeing violence across the country. We're seeing political unrest. And we're seeing finger pointing from all sides. But if we were to stop and examine where our consciousness is, if we could elevate our perceptions and see an entirely new kind of community, I believe that community is something that we can all aspire to, no matter who we are. I hope the questions that are raised here will encourage you to reflect and step into a place that I call divine neutrality. Do you have diversity consciousness? When you look at me, do you see a label, a gender, a color, a nation, a history, or a divine mystery? Is my identity the former or am I the latter? Labels, physical characteristics, philosophies, even our history are being used to separate us into categories and assign values. This is a function of language. Language categorizes, describes, names, labels, and it provides separation. It's something that we use to set ourselves apart, to set others apart, to determine safety, to assign value. But what if we exist and have existed since before language? If you didn't have language, what would you use to define everyone, each other, yourself? There's a passage in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, that is really beautiful, and I love the message that it conveys. Jeremiah is a prophet, and he was experiencing doubt and asking God, why had he been chosen to be his prophet? And the Spirit of God came to him and said, even before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you. Even before you were in your mother's womb, God knew you. That means you existed before the physical. And language, being a function of the physical, cannot adequately define who you are. Do you have diversity consciousness? Can you look at me and see what lies behind my eyes? We both may have pain, but what makes yours any greater? Why not release it before it makes you into a hater? Contrast and comparison with our other selves is what causes that sense of separation when we contrast and compare ourselves to others. We hold on to trauma and wield it as if it were a sword and shield against the world. When we do that, we solidify our position on the victim, villain, hero triangle. Now, the victim, villain, hero triangle is a way of, like a container that many people naturally use to navigate the world, as a victim or as a villain, as a hero. None of it's conscious. None of it's black and white definable. It's very fluid. Victim morphs into villain, feeling so justified by their wounds and trauma. Victim morphs into villain. Heroes need villains to blame and victims to rescue. And the cycle is perpetuated on and on and on. Wars, violence, crime, etc. Right now, you see me, and you are seeing Cassandra 2.0. That's what my family calls me, Cassandra 2.0. Pre-Cassandra 2.0 was firmly ensconced on the victim, villain, hero triangle. I had experienced bullying a lot growing up, and I had developed a persona that was my warrior and my shield and sword, which was a very intense anger that I carried around and was really effective at using to repel people to keep myself safe, so I thought. Not only did I keep myself safe, I kept myself apart and separated and wondered, why did I feel lonely? Go figure. But I realized long time ago that I could heal my generalized prejudices that I had against the world by applying forgiveness to my resentments and my isms. I didn't have to confront anyone. I didn't have to demand apologies. I didn't even have to seek out acknowledgement of any wrongdoing. All I had to do was realize that I had the sole power and responsibility to take control over my response, over my relationship to life. How can you release your pain? Can you release your pain without prerequisite? Do you have diversity consciousness? If you walk a mile in my shoes and I walk in yours, I bet we will find that our shoes are interchangeable and our understanding of each other is rearrangeable. Perspective is everything. In the same way that 6 people from 6 different perspectives will look at a Rubik's Cube and see a different color, shifting perception changes everything. It changes the entire effect. I've learned that human beings act out of perceptions, judgments, beliefs, and all of that, the beliefs especially, are motivated oftentimes by trauma and pain. I've also learned that perceptions and beliefs can change. We simply have to be willing to look at them. To be in response to life versus in reaction, we have to be able to look at our perceptions from a place of what I call divine neutrality. How do we get there? And what is divine neutrality? We've all grown up thinking good versus bad, good, bad, hot, cold. And we naturally do this with everything that happens in life. We have an instinctive view of that's good or that's bad. But what if we could get to a place that when something happens, we say, oh, I see that. I see that. I acknowledge that. And allow the emotion or thought that it brings up to simply be, to not act on it, to allow it to move through. And then maybe ask, what was that? Why did I have that emotion? How can I release it? Is it really true that it's good or bad, or is it just I had to choose whether or not I wanted to remain Cassandra 1.0 with being reactive and carrying anger. And I had to look and say, what were those beliefs that have me feeling this way the predominant amount of my time? And I looked and saw that I had judgment. I was classifying people that I didn't know in anticipation of reliving some pain from my past. And when I realized that I had a belief that was leading me to do that, I had to stop myself and say, wow, does this belief serve me? Is this belief going to allow me to be my best self? And my conclusion was no. So instead of making myself wrong for having that belief that maybe a 6 or 7-year-old developed, you can just say, okay, that one doesn't work. I'm not going to use that one anymore. What can I build that will work? We can just simply look at our lives, maybe from the perspective of sort of a scientific method, or if you're an athlete, you can relate to making adjustments. I can adjust my thinking this morning. Let me adjust this belief because that one doesn't quite serve me. Can you be open to other points of view? Can you ask questions and learn to listen? Can there possibly be information that you don't have? What don't you know? When we acknowledge without any judgment that we don't have all the answers, we can actually open ourselves up to new knowledge. And that new knowledge will come from wherever it comes. Do you have diversity consciousness? Can you give honor and appreciation to all whom you perceive? Consider the beliefs hiding deep inside you. Do they inspire love or do they misguide you? When we begin to dissolve those unserving beliefs, something magical happens. And I've seen this. Human beings have these core qualities that are our natural default. But through the living of life and experience, they can sometimes get layered over by our response to uncomfortable situations or trauma or pain. And cover up those qualities. The type of qualities that are our default, that when we find what real forgiveness is and let go of our traumas and pains and move ourselves into the present, what starts to rise up is a form of magic. These qualities will start to express themselves like understanding, cooperation, recognition of the soul of an individual. We start to see each other, and we start to see each other's value. And all of the labels and value judgments, the function of language sort of dissipates. And what's left there is that light. that existed prior to language. Our beliefs are often inherited from family, friends, social circles, and experience, and they can very easily misguide us. All we have to do is agree with them. And sometimes that we need to explore what the motivation for that agreement is. Like, why do I agree with this? Do I agree with this because it makes me feel superior? Do I agree with something because it feeds my anger and I feel justified? Do I agree with this because I want to see some sort of overage over another? Or do I agree with this because it serves my soul? Do I agree with this because it comes from a place of love where I want to be from? Several years ago, my prison ministry co-chair and I, Russell Downing, traveled up to Sacramento to work with juveniles in the California Youth Authority. And we encountered a young man who, when he walked into the room, Russell and I could both see and feel this intense anger that he carried within himself. And the staff had told us, keep an eye out. He's dangerous. He's accused of some really vicious, violent gang activity. Now, I could have taken that language and created a filter right there. Oh, this guy, we need to watch out for. But we don't do that here at Inner Light. And as we conversed with the men about the functions of the mind and taught them about the victim, villain, hero triangle and the way that whatever age a trauma occurs, that age, 6, 7, 3, 4 years old, a choice was made. And we oftentimes end up living out choices made by children. And when he got that understanding and was able to recognize that he'd grown up in a culture of agreement through social community that he was basically sort of born into, when he got that understanding that there was actually another way to look at life, another community to step into, Russell and I saw this transformation happen in this young man. And I could literally see the shift in his eyes, where he went from someone who had these labels on him to a brand new being. He told us that he was relieved to know that there was a new way to look at life, a new way to experience life. And that was the miracle that is so available to anyone. Do you have diversity consciousness? What is it that you truly believe about those who fall under the definition of other? Can't you see the commonality of all beings descended from a universal mother? Do you have diversity consciousness? So know this. Language is a function of the physical. The definition of other, a group or a member of a group that is perceived as different, foreign, strange, etc. creates a space for prejudice and separation. But metaphysically speaking, spiritually speaking, there is only one. There is no other. There's only one of us here. We're simply seeing and interacting with and meeting new versions of the divine, an expression, an individuated expression. That's what we are. That's who we are. So, to review, science tells us that the fabric of all existence is contained in a unified field of consciousness. That unified field is creative. It responds to our thought. We call it God. If you can accept that the unified field is the source of all, perhaps you can also accept that it occurs pre-language. If you can accept that it is also conscious and existed pre-language, perhaps you can also accept that without language, there are no categories and no value system to lay upon others. There's no separation. If you can accept that the unified field is creative and the first and only value placed on its creation ever reported was that it was good, then perhaps you can accept that all creation is good, that the core of every being you meet is good. Perhaps you can also accept that all beings come from that same source of divine neutrality. And that is where our real community lies. If you can align your consciousness with these ideas, if you can reach a level of divine neutrality, if you can sit in the stillness, close your eyes, and imagine yourself, imagine your consciousness rising up from your seat in your chair to above your head, outside of your body, above the level of your home, above the level of your city, expanding consciousness, seeing in all directions, above the level of your state, above the level of your country, far above the atmosphere, to see the planet in its entirety, to move even further out and recognize that there's a oneness to our entire solar system, to our galaxy, that there are other millions upon millions of galaxies with the possibility of the divine neutrality producing life everywhere. And then perhaps that source, that spark of our consciousness will awaken itself in you and stimulate you to remember we are all one. We are all the same. With these things in mind, I will ask you again, do you have diversity consciousness? When you look at me, do you see a label, a gender, a color, a nation, a history, or a divine mystery? Do you have diversity consciousness? Can you look at me and see what lies behind my eyes? We both may have pain, but what makes yours any greater? Why not release it before it makes you into a hater? Do you have diversity consciousness? If you walk a mile in my shoes and I walk in yours, I bet we will find that our shoes are interchangeable and our understanding of each other is rearrangeable. Do you have diversity consciousness? Can you give honor and appreciation to all whom you perceive? Consider the beliefs hiding deep inside you. Do they inspire love or do they misguide you? Do you have diversity consciousness? What is it that you truly believe about all beings descended from a universal mother? Do you have diversity consciousness? Let's pray. In this moment, right now, I'm breathing. I simply breathe. I breathe in the knowledge that there is a divine light, a divine source that is not some nebulous out there. It is intimately infused in my being. It is the place that occurs before language. All I need do is breathe into it and allow it to express. I release my preconceived notions of what life should look like on my terms, and I let life be on God's terms. And in the face of uncertainty and turmoil, I breathe into the peace that is pre-language. I let go of the language, and I choose to simply be. And from this place, all sense of separation dissolves, and I see human beings of divine origin, possibly acting out of pain and trauma. But I see past that. I see past the behavior, and I see that divine community called humanity. I give thanks for the grace and the glory that has sourced humanity, that is ever present in its full power and potential, right here, right now, in each and every person here, online, watching replay on YouTube, on Facebook, in this very room, I give thanks. How beautiful it is to be in community, to be a part of God's community. I let my consciousness divine determine the community that I see. And I claim that with a higher consciousness that I can reach, the more beautiful community is that I see. And with joyful anticipation, I release these words into the law that is God, knowing they cannot return void. So with gratitude, I let it go and I just simply say, together we say, and so it is. Amen.